Yo, what's going on? It's Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, tbkc, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Man, a topic was brought up earlier, and it was about Miagi, and it was about his brother, Revy. And it was referenced as far as to the proof that people were doing things. To go down that is like to go down the most serious rabbit hole of all times. Of course, I had, very close and intimate knowledge of Revy because one of my kennel partners owned him, a big, massive boy, threw big, massive dogs. Pretty well structured dog, very impressive, beautiful dog, tons of drive. But the problem when you start talking about what people knowing what happened with Miagi is this. Revy and Miagi, that part of the story doesn't correlate. Because the original Miagi, and asked people, it was just a picture posted and it blew people's minds. The original Miagi was over 17 inches tall. He was just short for that time frame, but you remember, like, this was the same time frame when, dogs like Paco, Little Row were considered to be, shorter when they borderline was right around that 17-inch mark. So he was a short dog. It was the evolution of the way that they kept on changing Miagi that made him shorter. You know what I mean? Every time they changed the dog that was representing who Miagi was, and we all know that they switched the dog multiple times, that's when the dog got shorter. But the real Miagi was not a very, very tiny dog. The reality of the Mr. Miagi, if he is actually off of that litter, is probably closer to the fact of what Little Row was, is that the original Miagi was a dwarf. He carried a lot of dwarf characteristics. He carried a lot of that look just like Little Row did. The biggest problem with the theory as people go on further and further is that they continued to change the dog, and we weren't getting a realistic perspective of what the dog actually was. So, there were situations where Mr. Revy's owner actually did things to try to line breed to see how it would come out or whatever, to see if he could pull things out of the Miagi blood. It wasn't there. It led a lot of us to believe, and the outright denials of doing any kind of DNA testing, to believe that they were never brothers in the first place. They're probably from two different litters. And the thought process that Miagi himself is just this great dwarf, great bulldog. I don't believe that the first Miagi was a bulldog mix. I feel like what happened is that George made the first Miagi and he got desperate. He wanted that look so bad. He wanted the dogs to continue to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And it was admitted as much in the emails. That's why it's never a big argument about that. They put the emails out to where he wanted to do what he did. He made a look. He made basically, he made his own lane, and he created it. He stood by it, and it became a thing. So the lane that he created for his dogs was more of that Frenchy look that you see out of Miagi now. And pretty much George single-handedly created his own breed, by using miniature bulldogs, by using Frenchies and other dogs, as stated. Now that's why you see dogs like Miagi, whose stomach is basically dragging the ground, is because things have happened and they decided to go a different way as far as the breed goes. But to compare and say, oh, this is what they were doing 16 years ago, no, not really. If you go back that far, and you'll find out that the true story behind Miagi is just that George more so single-handedly made Miagi by the things that he was doing. Not, I think it was his name, Juan, or no disrespect to him, I forget his name. I think it was Juan, but not him. He at all times was like, go ahead and test him. It's all good. And so when we talk about American Bully history, that's why it's always good to be there, so the small details of it, and you get a better picture of it. Because the truth of the matter, like I say, if we're going to use the Miagi story, it's so much more. And when I tell y'all it's like 18 Miyagis, that's not a real exaggeration. Ask people, they'll show you. I've seen someone have a thing that they rolled out, like, of all these pictures of Miagi, and they was counting the different variations of just the markings, like the different markings on the chest. Some dogs had 1 white paw, some dogs had 2 white paws, some dogs didn't have paws, some dogs were not didn't have paws but didn't have any color on their paws. Some dogs were other dogs weren't at all. Some dogs were a very dark blue, other dogs were more of a like a silverish color blue. It was just, you know, it was obvious to see that these were different dogs going throughout there, and he just kept on representing them. So, you know, if we're ever going to use anything to validate what was going on in the past, Miagi is not a great example unless you're going to start in that, say, 2009, 2010 area, 2011 area, where the Dax and the Miagi thing really got going and kicked off. Don't attribute that to 10 years before, you know, in the late 90s when this breed was actually starting to come together. You would have to go, you know, more so, like I said, maybe around 2010, 2011, when we started seeing things, you know, those dogs elevate and other shit fall apart. But, you know, I really thank all of y'all for everything, man. I appreciate all the patience as I get my shit together and do what I got to do, you know what I mean? I appreciate y'all. Next video, I'll have an update, and let's just keep it going. We'll try to do the live tomorrow. Woke up this morning, car trouble. Always something. But until next time, y'all, God bless y'all. Much love.